welcome to another Faith Horizons podcast. Today we're doing an author interview with Britney Hamm. Welcome, Britney Hamm.
Thanks for having me.
So anyway, so you've got two books in front of us, and so we're going to talk a little bit about your author's journey and just get to figure out why you decided to write in the first place. But what are the two books that you have?
Yeah, so it's a 2-book series, and there's more on the way.
Oh, great, yeah.
Yeah, the first one's called Finding Freedom. The second one's called Finding Forgiveness, and it's part of the Prodigal Series. Is the name of the series.
So the Prodigal Series. So you're planning on doing more than just so it's not like the Prodigal trilogy. It's not just going to be 3. It's going to
No, I'm really glad I didn't call it the Prodigal Trilogy because originally I had 3 books in mind, but then the Lord kind of kept changing that, so now there's at least 4. So it's a good thing that I didn't put a number to it.
So you can continue adding. All right. So these books are not they're not nonfiction. They are fiction books, right?
Yes, they are Christian romantic suspense.
Oh, cool. Christian romantic suspense. And you put them all together. That's crazy. Awesome. So so when did your writing journey begin? When did your writing journey begin for you?
Man, a long time ago. I've loved to write for as long as I can remember. Somewhere in the world, there is a floppy disk that contains all of the early writings.
Wow.
When I was in grade school and would go down to our family desktop and write stories. So I always loved writing. Funny enough, I never really enjoyed like English class or literature class.
Oh, wow.
I really loved to write. And
Wow.
so I've had just a variety of experience of different forms of writing, academic writing for school, writing for our ministry, blogging, editing, just a variety of things. And writing has just kind of been just something I do for enjoyment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started. And as a kid, like I said, there were just stories I would start and stop, start a new idea, just kind of always have something going. But then when I was in my 20s and it's like we had a young family, we were doing ministry, these scenes would come to me and I just kind of started writing. And I don't know, it was probably 5 years into that I was like, wait a second, I just wrote an entire book.
Wow.
And then it was, time to refine it and polish it and edit it. But I kind of had this moment of like, oh, this just went from being something I do for fun on the side to a book that is publishable.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, a lot of our hobbies, just we continue doing them and we continue refining them until they honestly become something like, hey, I can do something with this,
Yeah, and even all the different, if the Lord has given me just experience in, like I used to do stuff for websites and search engine optimization a long time ago. None of what I know is still relevant, I'm sure. Doing blogs, editing experience, writing for our ministry, just things that seem completely unrelated, but all of that has like refined and sharpened my writing skills in ways that do translate into fiction.
That's great. Yeah. And you had said, our ministry. And so we had recently had on Travis Hamm with Collegiate Impact, and this is his wife, Britney Hamm. So you're saying about Collegiate Impact, which we're going to talk very little about that, not at all. But yeah, there's a connection there. So, when did you, we talked beforehand, you said that, the first book was published, I think in 2020. And so, we actually ended up starting this podcast in 2020. I was like, that's why I'm like the origin stories of a lot of things nowadays.
Yeah.
Something happened in 2020.
Yeah.
There was such a catastrophe of like, you talk about, the COVID thing that happened, but it actually gave people time to reflect and to, there was also different types of money coming into the world, and time to just do something. So anyway, 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, it was January 17th, 2020. So it was very early in the year.
Okay.
But it was not the fruit of,
of COVID Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how long did it take you to write the first book? How long would you say?
From like very first scene on paper to publishing, it was about 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Which was a long time. But again, it would kind of come in spurts at first. It was like I'd write and then for 6 months I wouldn't touch it. And then I'd come back to it and have a spurt of creativity. And then there was a period there when I kind of had that moment of, wait a second, I'm writing a book. My husband started giving me like one night a week where it was guaranteed that even if I had no other time to write in the midst of our very busy life, I could get out of the house and go sit at a coffee shop and write. And so I did that for probably a year.
Wow.
And that's when it really started kind of going from this very rough shape to refined and polished and ready to publish. So the last couple years of that journey were kind of editing and preparing to publish.
Yeah, great. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the books because, so anyway, so what is Finding Freedom about?
Yeah, so it focuses a survivor. She has survived a variety of different difficult, traumatic situations, and there's some domestic violence in there, some human trafficking in there, an abuser of hers, and so she is escaping from that. And there's an FBI agent who kind of serves as her rescuer in a lot of ways, and he sets her up to live in a safe place in Maine where she meets a family that loves her and points her to the hope of Jesus, and she begins a journey of healing, and along the way, she meets a musician.
Oh, wow.
Well, some sparks fly there. I don't want to give too much away, but it's really her story of finding healing and freedom from this past that she's had. But there's also this juxtaposition of her kind of lost in her badness, so to speak, of her sin and her struggles and her shame over her past, and then the musician who's kind of lost in his goodness, his perfectionism, his thinking that he can just be good enough. So kind of in that, Tim Keller has Prodigal God, which is like a nonfiction.
Okay, yeah.
Putting that juxtaposition there to help us see that in the parable. It's putting that in fiction form to show how, whether from our badness or our goodness, we all need the redeeming love and forgiveness of God, and to be set free from our past, but to be also set free from our own efforts to try to be good enough.
Oh, that's so good.
Through the suspense and the romance and the drama, those themes are woven throughout.
Well, yeah, you're trying to help people realize that, you can have like a leaning towards badness, or you can have a leaning towards too much goodness almost, like your effort to make yourself right before the Lord. It's like God's like, I made you right. It's it's
exactly.
done.
Like tax collector or Pharisee, like the answer is the same.
Exactly. That's so good. Yeah. That's so true, because I mean, a lot of times the main struggle is the religious people have more of a problem with Jesus than the unsaved, and he kind of demonstrated that because he hung out with the tax collectors. He's like, I'm going to hang out with these people because they are receiving me differently than you are, So anyway, cool. Wow.
Yeah. And there's a lot of difficult themes. I'm not going to lie. So trigger warning, there's, like I said, there's domestic violence and trauma and miscarriage and just a lot of difficult things that make it into the story. Part of that is through my years of doing ministry. Like, there's just a reality that life is hard and pain is raw. And I didn't want to create kind of fluffy Christian fiction.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of that out there. A lot of people enjoy reading that. But I wanted to really get at people's hearts through a deep story that portrays really raw, real characters. And so I've had a lot of non-believers, even though the gospel is really clearly presented and it's very clearly a faith-based book, I've had a lot of non-believers say that they read it, they loved it, they enjoyed it, and they maybe even had a different understanding of the gospel after reading it. And so that was part of my heart too, is I want books that are communicating truth, but in a way that a non-believer can see themselves in the story and say, oh, that's me,
Yeah, so the Bible, everybody always likes to say, oh, well, the Bible is PG or G. I'm like, no. The Bible is rated R with an R beside it.
Off the charts.
It's off the charts, guys.
You don't even have to get through Genesis to figure that out.
I mean, like you said, raw and real. It's like, it's a real thing. It's like, this is the real deal. And it's like, and Christians always like, well, it has to be rated G. I'm like, there's nothing that's rated G. Nothing is rated G.
No, and I tried to be very tasteful, and it's not gratuitous, but it's not shying away from reality.
So good. That's so good, though. That's so great. So anybody who is even outside of the Christian world would maybe enjoy this, stumble into it, Yes. It's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so what a great book, though. What a interesting way to discover God, too, if you're an unsaved person, to find the things.
Hope and prayer.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's so great. So what's the second book? You just got finished. This is the new one, right?
Yeah,
it's off the shelf, right?
Just released in September. I thought I would release it probably 2 or 3 years ago, but life kept happening. And so it was kind of in that final stage for a while. So it's finally out. All the people who asked me for 2 years, when is it coming out? It's finally out. So it's Finding Forgiveness. And so this one takes one of the supporting characters from the first book, and it zooms in on him to tell his story. And so he's an FBI special agent. And it was really fun because in preparation for this book, I got to interview an FBI special agent.
Oh, wow.
Recently retired. He was from another church that we used to go to, and got to pick his brain, all things FBI, and so that I could try to make it as realistic as possible.
Can we just pop those up real quick? Because I don't know if they can actually see them.
If they'll stand. They're thick enough.
They might actually stand, so that way we can actually... we can actually see it. You could go this way right here, and I think you could still see it anyway. So, but those are the actual books that we're talking about: Finding Freedom and then Finding Forgiveness. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, wow.
And so,
That down.
yeah, so in this book, Maddie, the main character, he is just he's married to his work, and he has a lot of things from his past that he doesn't want to deal with, and he's kind of forced to deal with them through the events of this book. And really, for him, it's a quest of finding forgiveness, both receiving forgiveness for things that he's done and also extending forgiveness to a family member who has just really broken relationships. So if you like books with like family drama, father-son themes, FBI intrigue,
That's
then
so
it also
good.
touches on the trafficking because he is specifically with the
So,
human
so is
trafficking
is it the same FBI agent in both books?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the same FBI agent who at the beginning
Okay.
gets her to a safe place.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then the characters from the first book, they make their way back into the second book too. So they're there. They're just not the...
Well, it's always nice to not have to like relearn something once you've got something started. Like that's what the nice thing about series are. You can kind of come to expect certain things from different characters. Like, oh, this character's funny or whatever.
Yeah, having their little quirks. And there's kind of a grieving that happens when you finish a really good book. And even as an author, I'm like, when I get done writing it, like I almost have to mourn that it's done. And so getting to bring the characters back to like, okay, like I get to meet them again.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. So, all right. So this is a father FBI agent struggling. He has some family struggles, some stuff like that. And so what would you say was the main theme again on that?
For finding forgiveness. So,
finding forgiveness.
And it's his struggle to forgive his father.
Oh, okay.
And then other things from his past. So, and it brings in kind of some intrigue from the first book, carries over. So this book ends with a cliffhanger. And so then Maddie picks up kind of with that cliffhanger. So there's also that thread between there with the trafficking and pursuing the person who has caused harm and all of that.
That's so cool. Wow. All right. Well, great. And then obviously they're both on Amazon. So and then we'll have a link in the show notes. I might actually even have an affiliate link, but just because I can. And then, but yeah, just straight to Amazon, you can buy it, right on the thing. And it's Christian fiction. That's really cool. Like when I think of Christian fiction, like you think of like, C.S. Lewis, Chronicles of Narnia, even Lord of the Rings. I mean, Tolkien was actually a Christian. He and C.S. Lewis were friends. Frank Peretti wrote, there's a whole entire...
This Present Darkness.
This Present Darkness, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Really kind of cool series. And then you get books like, The Cross and the Switchblades, which almost seem untrue enough to be fiction, but they are true. Yeah. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so what a cool thing. So
yeah, I love fiction. I have been a lifelong fiction lover. I mean, ever since I was like 3 and first read The Rainbow Fish. And
oh, wow.
Both started my love for all things that sparkle and my love for fiction. I inhaled books as a kid, read super fast. And I mean, I read a lot of the classics because I had to for high school. I went to a classical school. But to be honest, I mean, I'm an academic and I love to learn, but I really, really just love to read fiction.
So you had said before that we talked about how writing is a refuge, and you talk about how your husband, like carved out this little one night a week for you back then, but now it's changing, life changes, but back then. But so how is it a refuge for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly think it is just how I wrestle out what God's teaching me. Like in these books, you would never know it by reading them because you wouldn't necessarily know what was happening in my life when I wrote them. But when I go back and read them or when I'm editing what I've already written, it's like a window into what God was teaching me or what truths I was wrestling with. And so, there's threads of different characters and storylines that maybe come from experiences I've had counseling others, walking alongside them in ministry, just different people around me. But a lot of it is my own struggles and wrestlings, my own journey to find freedom from my goodness and my perfectionism. And then, with each of them, the Lord has kind of pressed on to my heart a theme. And so freedom was the theme for the first one, forgiveness for the second one. And when forgiveness came to mind for the second one, I was kind of like, Lord, really? Like, I don't have anyone in my life that I'm struggling to forgive.
Wow.
And so I wrote that book, and I was probably 50% of the way through writing it when some pretty significant things happened in a particular situation in my life. And there was suddenly an individual who went from being someone amazingly dearly loved to someone that I needed to forgive of some pretty significant things. And so it was incredible to see like how the Lord prepared my heart to forgive. Like he had me wrestling with these truths of what does it mean to forgive, to both to give and receive forgiveness before I even knew that I needed to forgive someone.
That's great.
So it's just neat to see how the Lord has done that. And even with the third book that I'm working on now, the theme is joy. And what does it mean to find joy when life continues to hand you struggle and trial one after another? And that's been our family story the last few years. Like, we've just, as a family, gone through a lot of trials and had a lot of grief and a lot of loss, and how the Lord is using that book to wrestle with joy through these characters and their stories and their lives to teach me. And so that's kind of why, I mean, it's a refuge just because it's fun. It's different from my day to day. You kind of escape to a different world. But the
that you
truth,
created.
yes. People always ask me, they're like, did you plan this out? And I'm like, no, like, my husband laughs a little when I say this. I'm like, no, it's almost like I meet these characters and like they show me their story. And he's like, okay.
Have you ever got, so I know you're a writer, so have you ever got to the point where you're like, almost like that getting the character out of the situation that they're in is now difficult? It's like, now how do I?
Yes. Funny story. When I wrote the cliffhanger for the first book, I didn't have a plan for how I was going to get out of it.
Okay.
And that was the hardest part about the second book. So I definitely learned, if I'm going to leave a cliffhanger, I better have a really good plan for getting myself out of the cliffhanger.
Wow.
Because I don't like to leave loopholes. I like to write really tight.
Absolutely.
So yes, in that situation. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if you know who Brandon Sanderson is. Brandon Sanderson writes a lot of books. He's, he's Mormon, but anyway, he's one of the biggest fantasy writers today. And anyway, so he said he writes 1,000-page books, and so he has these editors that'll go in and they'll find, well, now you said it right here, this thing right here, and it's like, and then over here on chapter 5, it's like programming, like it's like going through and like programming the book to make sense. Otherwise, it like you left a loophole somewhere.
Yeah, you need those other eyes, and it's amazing how much can escape. Even, I mean, you look at big name books out there, and you'll find something there. Yeah. But yeah, my editor, I remember one time she emailed me, and she was like, "Okay," she's like, "You said that this character was in this position, and then these lines later they were in this position." She's like, "I got down on the floor and I tried it, and I don't think it's physically possible." It's like, that is some editing dedication.
That's legit. That's so cool. So you actually have a team of fun people that help you, and meticulously fun people that help you do this.
I have my editor, who's a friend of mine, that just really good attention to detail. And then my sister has been hugely helpful. I've got a couple friends that are usually my first readers that I'm like, okay, tell me if this totally stinks. And then my mom is actually my proofreader. My mom, she always hated the fact that she read slow, but I think it's a great gift because she catches things that fast readers like me breeze by.
Yeah.
So there are some dedicated people who cheer me on through some help, some insight, some editing, as well as just prayers and encouragement.
That's so cool. Anyway, you don't always see the back end of the writing process, all the editing that goes into it, the people that are involved. It's like it takes a whole entire army to get a book out the door.
Yeah, and I actually love to edit. Like, that's one of my favorite parts. So I don't mind that process of, like, that actually is really kind of restorative to me, to take what I've already written and like continue refining it. And again, I think that's where some of that, like, I'm continuing to wrestle with the message or the theme as I'm editing it. I know some authors, like, once they're done writing, they don't want to touch it. But I love the process of editing, but I do still need outside perspectives because you get too close to your own writing. Have you
ever watched the movie Finding Forrester?
Yes, I love that.
Anyway,
it's been a long time.
Great movie. Anyway.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Anyway. Where you do his accent.
I can't do it. Anyway, he's a great guy. He's got a great accent. I'm not going to even try. Anyway, so one of the things that he did in his, because he was a writer in the actual movie Finding Forrester, is he had this, younger black kid, inner city, typing at the computer, and then the kid was going, type 1, type 2. He goes, no. He goes, you need to punch the keys, basically. And then he came over and gave a demonstration, and and then he like rips it off the thing, and it's like this like chicken scratch, probably. Like, oh my God, that's horrible. So I'm just asking, do you like just throw everything on the page and then edit it, or are you kind of like a edit as you go type of person? Because it's very hard to edit as you go because it takes long to get there.
It's a little of both. For one, I'm an insanely fast typer, so that helps.
That does help.
It helps a lot. But I don't write sequentially. Okay. I don't write the story from start to finish. I don't outline my books in advance.
Okay.
I mean, with this third one, I've had to do that a little bit.
Because you have to make connections.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of, once I get stuff on paper, but I have a writing software where I can like drag and drop chapters to rearrange things and drop this scene from this chapter into this one. And so, when you're rearranging, you have to edit a lot as you go because it may change what season of the year it is or, different details of the story. But because the editing process is restorative to me, like there might be days where I don't have the creative energy to sit down and write a new scene.
Oh, okay.
But I have the editing energy to sit there and refine and work with something. So it may not be the most efficient. Like if this were my full-time job, which let's be honest, no one becomes an author to make money.
No.
But if it were, and I had like hard and fast deadlines, that I'm trying to churn out a book every 6 months, it wouldn't be an efficient process.
Yeah.
But because I do it partly as just a love for it, I don't necessarily choose the most efficient route. So it's a little of both. Sometimes I'll write a substantial amount and then edit and re-edit. But sometimes it's like a scene will come to mind that may be totally down the road from where I'm at in the story. And I'll just go ahead and write that.
Wow.
And then later fit it in where it needs to go.
Wow. That's great. I was in Bible college and I actually ran into this lady. It was probably one of the most, most revealing people I've ever met. She was an author. I think she was actually what do they call them? The secret authors, the ones that write for people.
Oh, ghostwriter.
She was a ghostwriter.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, I am a writer. I write 20 pages a day. I'm like, wow. She said, that's what I do. I'm a writer. She goes, if you're going to write, you write. It's like, okay. It's like, and so and I was just saying that, so she said, if you're going to be a preacher, you preach. I mean, like, it's like, go do what you're going to want to do but sometimes she goes, it's, monotonous sometimes, so.
I know I had a writing friend who's a very successful author, and she told me once, she's like, you need to be writing 5,000 words a day. And I'm like, what? That's great advice when you're in your stage of life where you're retired and your kids are five children at home. Yeah, I'm homeschooling and a ministry with my husband. So I really don't, at this stage of life, have the luxury of 5,000 words a day. But
that's funny. Yeah,
just
drag your youngest in there. All right, now I need you to fill out this paragraph for me while I go make dinner.
That would be an interesting paragraph.
Quite.
She's only 3.
Quite. I know. That's why I was like, did you erase that? Did you push the backspace? I'm home. Push the backspace. Like, what?
Yes.
Anyway. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I just, we got to look, some of the behind the scenes about what you've done. And so we got Finding Freedom and Finding Forgiveness, and I'll have the links. Can we lift those up again real quick? We'll have the links in the show notes, so you can just go click right on Amazon and buy them directly. So,
and even if you're not a fiction reader, I really encourage you to give fiction a try because it's a powerful way to learn and understand truth. Might hit you in a different way than if you just read a nonfiction book on either topic. So, give it a try, even if you're not a fiction reader.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, Brittany.
Yeah, thank you.
God bless.